Salud! What's up, YouTube? This is my small brindis to you. Cheers. It's been a long time coming. I promise you, it's not because I didn't want to do it. It's because of lack of time, as usual. I just got back from my holidays on a break. Merry Christmas to everyone. Happy holidays, whatever you're celebrating. And as you can see, there is not much of a winter weather here where I live. It's a nice view though. But I had enough time to actually sit down and finish editing the video. And kudos to all of you who make your own videos and edit them and upload things like basically on a weekly basis or even more often. I don't know how you guys do it. Well, I guess you don't have certain time constraints or technical constraints such as the ones that I experienced. But even though if I had as much time or technical knowledge as some of you do, I don't think I will even be able to upload that many videos. So this is to you. Now, I don't want to beg or anything, but if you are happy enough that I uploaded this last video for Heroquest, because it took 2 years to paint the whole set and edit all the videos, please leave a like. And if you are so keen as to see whatever videos might come down the line in maybe 6 months or 2 years from now, who knows, you never know, please subscribe and activate notifications so you know when one of my videos comes up, which, as I said, you never know when is the next one. Now, into what we came here to do today, which is presenting the last video for the Heroquest painting kind of challenge that I had. Long last, I have finished painting my Heroquest. Not only that, I added all kinds of things. You can find all the videos in my channel, from painting skeletons, the orcs and everything, to now the Heroquest Gargoyle and the Chaos Wizard. And that's it, I'm finished. My game is set and ready to be played with all the base adventures. And even though as you can see, I have some more miniatures here, well, basically, for the first time in my lifetime, okay, I have a Heroquest that is painted, and I feel so freaking good about it. You have no idea. I mean, this is the first game I played with miniatures in my life, and it just took me, what, 30 something years to actually have one painted. It's like, really? So, you know, I'm happy. I'm very happy about that. Okay, on to the next thing. Thank you for following up. I've seen people subscribing lately. I'm sorry this introduction is taking so long, but it feels good to see that some of you are feeling encouraged to pick up paints, to pick up a way of doing things that is not heavy metal worthy, but it's good enough to make your game look the way that you always dreamed to look like. And for all that, and because it's the season of thanking people for, you know, things and feeling grateful about that, thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed the video. Stay until the end, because maybe there is a surprise for you. For today's tutorial, I'm gonna start using something that I never used before, which is this contrast paint, Dark Oath Flesh. And with it, quite appropriately, as you can see by the name, I'm going to paint both the flesh on the Chaos Wizard and on the Gargoyle. Next, I'm going to use Drakenhof Nightshade, and with this I'm going to paint several parts of the miniatures, including the base, which is going to be painted as flagstones later. And in the case of the wizard, I'm going to paint the boots, the gloves, and the tunic with it. For the Gargoyle, I'm going to use this color as well to paint the belts and, well, basically the belts, everything that are belts in the miniature, as well as the outside part of the blade and that small triangle on the flaming sword and the whip. As you can see, the base is going to take to get a similar treatment to that from the wizard. Moving on to the next step, we're gonna use Nuln Oil to paint once again the tunic, the boots, and the gloves of the wizard. This way we're gonna create the classical RushtheWashers black color. As you can see, I'm putting some of the black in the sockets of the skulls, both the face, the one on the chest, and the one on the buckle of the belt. The Gargoyle has this strange armor on top of the wings, and this one was painted before with grey, and I'm not doing this second wash with Nuln Oil. All the other parts are also getting the same treatment: the sword, all the belts, and the whip. With white, I'm going to clean up whatever I stained before, and also I'm going to create this interesting kind of dag pattern that the wizard has on his tunic. It is a pain in the butt to create this pattern, but as you can see, if you have a sharp brush, you can try to do it the same way that I do. I'm going to have to retouch it later, as you will see, but it's the way I did it. With Casandora Yellow, after painting with white some of the flames on the tunic, I'm going to paint these again with Casandora Yellow, and then I'm going to move on to those parts that in the wizard are red. I tried to do it this way so I could create an orangish color, but definitely if I had to paint him again, I will do it differently. I will go into red and then create some highlights with orange. The sword is going to get the same treatment, so I can create like a flaming kind of effect inside of it, but this is the first step, some Casandora Yellow into that. I'm gonna use blood letter to paint all the different parts of the armor in the Gargoyle, which were not painted before, and also the wings. As you can see, I'm using a different brush, a little bit bigger, so I can save time doing this. Other parts of the helmet, which are a little bit more detailed, I need to use a fine brush. And then I'm doing the same on all the yellow parts of the wizard. For the flames on the tunic, I'll be more careful because I want to paint just a little bit of it at the bottom. And then there is this star pattern that I copied from Mike McVeigh's model. I am using now one of my FW washes inks, and this is here the color that I'm using, so please take note if you want to copy it. And I'm using it to darken, or to not exactly darken, to make it more intense, more of an intense red color. These washes or inks are very cheap compared to what you buy from Games Workshop, and they work absolutely fine. I'm gonna do the same thing with the different parts of the armor on the Gargoyle, and then I'm going to move on to the next step, which is darkening the wings now. Using Gehenna's gold, I'm gonna pick up all those details that in the miniatures on the original scheme are gold. In the case of the wizard, it's like a belt or a sash. I'm not really sure how to call that. And those small rings that he's wearing around his arms, on the biceps, on the triceps. There are also some studs on the gloves that need to be picked up. That's basically it for the Chaos Wizard. Well, I forgot to mention that he has rings as well. This is absolutely optional. They don't seem to be very well sculpted or sculpted at all in the miniature, but I decided to put those in there as well. The Gargoyle on its own has quite several parts in golden color. One of them is the chainmail loin, and there is this neck guard chest piece that it's wearing around its neck. Also the horns and small details on the helmet. The ring around the skull and on the belt piece is also in gold, and I'm going to paint that as well. As you can see on the greaves, the I did try to paint them at the beginning in black, but I decided against that, and now I'm covering it and painting it in gold again. This is only applicable for the ones in the ankles. As you can see, I'm leaving those behind the knee black. With pure white, I'm trying to pick up once again the small kind of spikes that this pattern has, as I obscured them a little bit with red when I was tracing those lines before. And I decided that I wanted to create some more highlights. This is optional. This is one of my pet peeves. I like sometimes a little bit of extra work, but if you're not good on highlighting or you really don't know where to put those, this is optional and you just can't forget about it. I'm trying to trace each muscle with a little bit of white because I'm gonna give a glaze afterwards to create a little bit of extra highlights in the wizard skin. The Gargoyle goes through the same treatment of getting some white highlights here and there. I'm now picking up those nails on the toes, and also, as you can see, I'm highlighting a little bit inside of the flames of the sword and the blade itself, because I'm going to create a light source effect. Those small claws, and then I'm doing the same thing with the muzzle. Now, if you are willing to do this and you're following the tutorial while you're painting, I'm gonna tell you something, a secret. Do this on the Gargoyle, it will work fine because it has a darker tone of skin, but on the Chaos Wizard, ignore doing this absolutely. Don't do any of this white highlight nonsense on the skin. In the flesh, you will see that I do an extra step later that you can do as well, which is highlighting with something else. And in order to create a glaze on the flesh, I use my trustworthy Raglan flesh shade, and with that I'm going to create highlights that are not so pronunciated, but they will look quite decent. I also use it to create a little bit more of contrast within the gold, just to make sure that the tones in the skin all are tied together. Here I'm doing it to the wizard, but as I said, if you want to save time, I would rather not do this and just stick to the original color, or if you want to get some highlights, go straight to the next, the last step on the skin, which is a little bit later, where I do use shafty bone to create those highlights. And this is where we are at now. Some of you might consider this a good standard already, so if you want to stop, that is absolutely fine. As you can see, I've shaded the crevices on the wings with flesh shade, and in here the wizard is almost complete with a few extra shadowing. For that, we're gonna use the trustworthy Vinci Sepia, one of my favorite washes because it can be used for so many things. And for the gargoyle, we're going to darken the teeth and bone and the gold all over the place. As well, I'm going to use this shade in order to create a little bit more contrast within the crevices in the wings. The wizard is getting the same treatment, gold, bone, horns, those things, and then we move on to the second step, which is Agrex Earth Shade. If you have seen my videos before, and I'm pretty sure some of you have, you know that it's Vinci Sepia and then Agrex. It's basically a very easy way to achieve quite nice tonalities in metals and bone, leather, a lot of things like that. So it's a very good way of achieving those colors with just a couple of steps. Now I'm gonna use Lamenter's Yellow, and this one is going to go only one part, which is those white highlights that I did before inside the blade of the gargoyle, thus achieving a yellow tone that is not as strong as with Casandora yellow, and making the source light well work. Using Gehenna's gold again, we're going to try to highlight the gold, because one of the things that washes do is they kill a lot of the shine in the metals, so you have to go back. You use it in order to achieve highlights, but this once again is an optional step. If you don't feel very confident creating highlights, although here is ridiculously easy, don't do it. But as I said, it's worth the time. It's just a couple of minutes. Getting back to white, I'm gonna highlight the bones. This is once again an optional step for those of you who don't feel confident doing highlights. But if you want to create a little bit more of contrast within the miniature, which is very important when you paint with washes, it is recommended to do so. As you can see, the teeth now pop out, and those small skulls in the armor also create a nice contrast. The eyes, I'm painting them white in order to achieve, well, a focal point, because that's what the eyes are in miniatures. They just attract you to look onto them. It is worth mentioning that I've done the same thing with the wizard. I've highlighted a lot of parts, the bones and whatnot, and I also highlighted the red, the different red things. One of the steps that I didn't film, unfortunately, is creating some designs with very dark ink from FW Daimler, which is called Sepia, and thus I made those lines that you see on the helmet and on the gloves as well as flames. But I created white highlights on all the different red parts, and then I did a glaze with orange, which you don't see done here. With blood letter, again, I retouch and make sure that the red looks red. And in here, I'm gonna go once again with blood letter at the bottom of the blade and on the eyes, and inside the eyes of the skulls that the gargoyle is wearing. As you can see, I painted several dots. Sorry I didn't film that either, what the heck. I painted several dots on the armor because I wanted to create gems. You can see them very well here. And on the belt buckle, huge belt buckle that this miniature is wearing, I paint those with a little bit of red on the bottom corner, thus creating almost a gem effect that needs a little bit extra step, but that's, well, that's what it is. I'm using now Druchii Violet to create a more interesting tongue. Otherwise it will be too red. Everything is red in the armor, everything is red in the sword, and the wings is too much red. So I think a little bit of violet will create a more interesting effect on the tongue. And then with green, I'm gonna paint these ones, those gems, those parts of the armor, and thus we have a more interesting, again, a more interesting effect. Here, an extra dot of wash on the gems, and with the dark brown ink called Sepia, and retouching here and there to create more shading in those parts there is not enough contrast, in my opinion. So between the teeth of those knee pads, on the gums, and some parts of the gold for the wizard, I'm doing that on the in between his legs, so there is more shading. And this is brown, this is not black, but if you have black it will work fine as well. Yes, make sure that you basically mix it with some water so it runs better. Here I'm using another coat of Drakenhof Nightshade, yes, to paint the snout on the gargoyle, and then retouching a little bit the whip here and there to make it look a little bit more dark, more rich in color and tonalities. The leather is getting the same treatment because it looks a little bit too grayish, so it's just improving a little bit the tonalities in those pieces. After seeing the effect, well, I decided to go back to the wizard and do the same thing on those things that should look a little bit darker, like the gloves and the boots. So now I'm going to use Runefang Steel to highlight the gold parts on the gargoyle, thus creating a little bit more of, well, once again, contrast. The trick painting with washes, and it should be noted that it's a little bit more advanced technique, but it's not very advanced, is creating highlights at the end of the process. With washes you can achieve very fast painting, but if you go the extra mile of creating some highlights, that's where you get most benefit from it. I'm not fully satisfied with the skin tone of the wizard. It's not bad, but because I'm checking the original pictures from Mike McVeigh, I decided to go and create a little bit more highlights, and thus I used Shapti bone to do that. As I said, if you don't want to do this extra step, it's absolutely fine. The skin color was not bad at all. I just wanted him to look a little bit more pale, like the original miniature. So here I skipped 2 steps. You can see how I do these with previous videos on Heroquest. It's basically painting the flagstones first with bone, then with white, and now I'm painting small lines in between the rocks with pure black, a little bit watered down. And the last step is just giving it a coat of Agrax Earthshade, just to darken it and make it more akin to the flagstones on the game. Well, and this is it. All the game is made, finished, painted, videos edited, uploaded. Now you can paint your own Heroquest. Thank you for watching me. Thank you for following up. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for liking the video or disliking the video. Thank you for everything, everyone. It's been a pleasure to paint this game. You may leave now, or maybe wait. Bye!